Hey, Crosspoint College. I'm Mason Tanner, your college pastor and the community pastor here at Crosspoint. And today we're going to continue our conversation around sacred rhythms. Now, to help me do that, I brought some friends in to talk. So why don't you introduce yourselves and tell us what school do you go to?
I'm Sydney. I go to Lipscomb.
Nice.
I'm Cole. I go to Tribeca.
I'm Jenna. I go to Belmont.
That's awesome. Now, what year are all of you?
Sophomore.
Junior.
Junior.
Okay, sophomore, 2 juniors. I love it. Mason, I did not go to any of those schools. So today, specifically, we're going to talk about a sacred rhythm that I don't think gets a ton of attention. It's the sacred rhythm of solitude. Now, solitude immediately coming out of COVID and all of the things can spark some no, I don't ever want to do that ever again. That's terrible. But at the same time, there's a lot of biblical example of solitude, of withdrawing. We see that Jesus actually withdraws a lot of times. In Luke 5:15 and 16, it says that yet as the news of Jesus was spreading throughout the towns, so that so many crowds and people were coming to hear him, and he was healing the sick. Yet Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. Now, all of this comes after he is stepped into his public ministry. He's praying for people. He's healing people. All of this stuff is happening, and yet he's still finding all of this time to withdraw and be alone and be in solitude with God. And so let's speak to that for a few minutes. What are some of the things that maybe you've experienced as far as the sacred rhythm of solitude, or some of the things you feel like have stood in your way when wanting to embrace that?
I think something that stood in my way is just the constant busyness of things, always having something to do. I don't want to miss out on anything, so I don't make that time to sit and be alone.
Yeah, that's so good. Busyness can totally get in the way. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about you, Cole?
Yeah, I think solitude can be a little it's not the first thing I always want to go do, and it's not inviting, I think, but the Lord uses it in such a mighty way, because I don't think there's other times that we are really just totally distraction free, and you have to be intentional about it, because it's not just gonna happen.
Yeah.
And really quieting down enough to hear his voice is super special, and I want to do it more because it is life-changing.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good.
I think COVID honestly was a big part of just ignoring solitude almost, because it's just now finally getting back into being in more social environments and being around my friends again, being able to do all the stuff I wasn't able to do last year. It's I'm scared to miss that because I missed a whole year of it. And so it's you don't want to slow down enough because you feel like you're going to miss all of that.
Yeah, for sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. There's a FOMO to solitude. If I'm choosing one thing, I know I'm missing out on something else, right? So tell me this then, when we think about choosing something over something else, it's important for us to know what those things are. So in one hand, you've got, hanging out or going to do the next thing or watching Netflix or whatever it might be. So what does solitude look like for you? Or what do you think, what does it look like for you? Sydney?
I feel like culture would say that it's just being by yourself. But having that as a spiritual rhythm would be you and God. So being completely quiet, completely distraction free, somewhere that no one else is, and just being with the Lord, whether it's reading the Bible or praying or just sitting in silence.
That's so good. Yeah, that's really good. Do you do music or anything with that, or is that something that you want to just, I don't know, what does the stripping away of all of those things look like for you?
It depends on the day, I guess. I may do music sometimes, when I'm reading the Word or praying, but if I want to be intentional about just sitting and listening, having nothing else going on.
Yeah. And when you say listening, are you trying to listen, hear the voice of God, or I don't want to put words in your mouth. What do you think it's like?
Yeah, or just not thinking about anything, or not having thoughts going on, because I feel so often I just pray and pray and pray, and I don't sit and be quiet.
Wow.
So even if I'm not hearing the Lord's voice actively, just being quiet enough to let him have that room to speak.
That's really good. That goes back to what we talked about last month about prayer and keeping company with God, right? If we're keeping company with God, then nobody is required to say. And it's good to just be in the presence of. That's huge. That's really good. What about you? Have you had any experience?
Yeah, kind of going along with that. I think there's like, for me, like a humbleness in not always talking or always listening, and knowing that like it's a reminder for me that like there's something more, and I don't know what's going on, and I don't always need my opinions to be heard, and I don't always need to hear something right now. Like, and there's something to just being okay with nothing for a minute.
Yeah. And that's really good.
I think like in recent years, like I figured out what works for me, because I never really like knew solitude before then. I was kind of just more of the person like go to church, and that's like what I do, you know? And so like recently, like right before COVID hit, Crosspoint did Awakening.
Oh yeah.
Like, fasting, like you don't have to fast like anything in particular. You kind of just fast whatever you feel like you need to. And so I fasted for like a month. I did like 1 day a week I would fast, and then I got this journal. Like that was the first thing I did, and I literally have like used that journal ever since then. And like every single like Sunday service or like even Tuesday nights, like I'll bring my journal and I'll write down any notes or anything related to God or just anything I'm feeling. Like it's my prayer journal. I write every prayer in it, and it just is like so sacred to me. And that's kind of where I like, even if I am in like a public place or something, like I can always look in that journal, and that's just like my place of solitude for them.
Wow, that's incredible. I love what you said too, because there's a mental shift there that solitude doesn't always mean like a place, right? It's not always, sometimes it's a mindset. Like you can be totally in total solitude, even in a public place at times, you know, a coffee shop or something like that. It's about what your intention is when you get to that space. And it's being with the Lord. It's being with him. That's really good. I know for me personally, I had no rhythm around solitude at all until I was in college. And when I got in college, I had this weird situation where all of a sudden I didn't have any roommates anymore, and I didn't know what to do next. And I found, for me, it was both God and a place. But I found this place to State Park just to sit with God and be alone. And it was like alone. Like it felt like nobody will know where to find me, kind of alone kind of thing. And I don't, recommend that for everybody. It's not everybody's cup of tea. There was something about knowing I was going to a place and doing a thing just to be alone with God. It was really good. Really good. Yeah. Brought a lot of peace to a lot of situations.
Yeah. I feel like it's really hard to find that alone time in college because we live right next to people, like in the same room with people. So it's hard to like take that step away and be like, I need to go off campus and find somewhere to be alone.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, it's really good. You got any fun suggestions for things? Well, if you tell anybody, then they're going to take your spot. So maybe not so much.
I think like finding a time, like working out with your roommate, like when are you not in the room so that I can have this, or like even just wandering on campus and finding like where people not, and that's where you're going to be. Or just like going on a hike, or like you said, like finding a park to sit at.
Yeah, for sure. Now you were telling me earlier that you had this camp experience where solitude was a part of that. Tell us about that, and tell us about what that kind of sowed in your life.
Yeah. So we had a camp this summer where we would take like during morning prayer, we would kind of start out and just have 5 minutes collectively to just sit together, and you could pray or just take that time to be quiet. And it was really, I think it really reminded me of like the weight, like being there with those kiddos, and knowing that like it's just such a precious time there, like kids giving their lives to the Lord and people being baptized and all these really cool things. And so I think it was kind of like what we were saying earlier, just like a recentering and focusing on what we should be.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, you said that, and I'd forgotten that we had talked about that, but there's something about seeking God in solitude and being there with him, like what you said and what we all said, that it reminds you of what you were made for. Every one of us were made for relationship with God. Every one of us were made to keep company with God. And when we're in solitude, it's just us. It's like that. It's a really special time of doing that and remembering exactly what you said, who we are. It's like a recentering or like a reminder of who we are. That's so good. Gosh. All right. So would you suggest people jump in on Solitude?
Yeah.
Try it out.
Oh, absolutely.
Come on. All right, cool. Well, this week in our groups, we're going to talk about solitude. We've gotten the conversation started for you. Take it a little bit deeper. Maybe come up with a plan and a place so that you can practice solitude and spending time with God.